Okay, so my name's Jason, Yuji or Zorn on the internet. What I'm going to do here is create a tutorial on how to do several things. First off, how to extract a mech from MWO into Blender and pose it and apply textures to it. Then after that, how to export it and import it into Unity so that it can be added to an asset bundle, and then that asset bundle can be extracted into TableTop Simulator to give you a model that looks like this, and then when color tinted, will only color the model but not the base. So, which is how I like to use them. Let's start off by the things you're going to need to do this. First off, you will need to use PowerShell. That's how we run the converter. You're going to be using GIMP. This is how we edit the hex base that we're going to have, which is right here. We'll go over how I built this. You're going to need Blender, and I'm using Blender 4.5. This is the last version that could import collada files, which is what we need to use. Um, then you'll use Unity. It's version 6.2F1, which is detailed on the Tabletop Simulator page. And then obviously I've got Tabletop Simulator. So some things you're going to need. First off, you'll need the CryEngine converter. The Hefe presents a guy named Jeff. He's got a bunch of tutorial videos. You can see here, it's not hard to find them. Some of the stuff's not quite up to date, but this will work. Anyways, you need this CryEngine converter, which you run in PowerShell. You need this CryEngine importer, which is a plugin for Blender. You don't need, but I recommend this batch UV tool, which is very handy for adding a new UV layer to like 40 objects at the same time instead of having to do them one at a time. Um, this is the MWO camo file that I use, which we'll cover in a second. Um, This is Tabletop Simulator's details on how to build custom asset bundles, which mostly you need to know that you need this Unity version. And then I also use MechBay to look up the actual mech we're doing. And I use this miniatures page from Catalyst to see how they pose the official sculpt, and that's how I try to pose it. So that covers everything we're going to need. So some pieces here. In One of the first things you're going to need to do is unpack everything. Hefe's tutorials cover this, but I did same structure he did. I did in Depot. Scripts is where I saved the few of the things that I needed. I have several CryEngine converters, but I used the latest one. I just named them different because there's a couple times I actually used an older one. There's the importer, which you import this whole zip file, and there is the batch UV maps, which you import into Blender. Uh, on GIMP, I've got this model here. In fact, while that's going, let me go. I'm into this folder. I'm going to go to the Bane, CD Bane, because we're going to do a new Bane. I'm choosing the Bane for this tutorial because it does lots of special things that don't happen with every mech. So it's a really good example of the different stuff you'll encounter. Um, this is the command that you run. I don't know it entirely. I know that it's saying for every file with these extensions, run this converter. This DAE tag or variable means exported as a collada file. And then this is the object directory that it's getting something from. I don't remember. But anyways, you do this and you hit go, and now it's just going to run. It'll run for a while. I would say probably a minute or two. It'll be done by the time we get over to Blender. So this is the one I made, the hex base I made. I did this so that I could have a custom hex for a base for every mech. Um, these are real simple to build. It's just this image file. It's 1024 by 1024. I just and then as a little text layer right here. So all I do is double click this or highlight it. I find it 44 was perfect, but you'll size it however you want. And then we're going to call this a Bane. And then I just hit escape to get out of it, Control Shift E to save as. And then I'm going to go to that folder, which was Depot MWO objects mechs the Bane. And then what I do is I create a folder and I call it TTS, which is Tabletop Simulator. And then I'm going to name it. And this I'm going to call BANE base.jpg. Because the reason I'm doing that, you'll notice it names all the files are Bane dash. So anyways, Bane base JPG. I do that because I'm not using transparency and the JPEG will be smaller. Okay, so that's all I need to do in GIMP. Next step is Blender. We got a lot of stuff to do in Blender. So first off, you go to Edit and Preferences. This is where you can set up here to install from disk. I've got this batch UV maps. This isn't used until you're importing into Tabletop Simulator. And then this CryEngine importer, which is what makes this all possible. All right, so those are open. Now I'm going to do File, and I'm going to say Open. I'm not going to save that. I want to show you a couple things I've made. So this is the original camo blend that you get. And the whole reason we open this up is so that we can get this camo here. This is the basic camo that gets used, basic material. It will have an RGB color file, which will have an RGB pattern. Anything red gets this color, anything green gets this color, anything blue gets this color. If you set them all to white, then they're going to be the same texture. The darker the red, the darker this will be. This is how you can specify 3 colors. The next one will be the diff, which is the diffuse layer. This is going to be the coloring for anything that is not covered by RGB. So, because any of these colors would not appear wherever there's no RGB. They'll only appear where there's no RGB. Then the next one's the DDN. It's the normal map. I think it's something about the roughness of the texture, I think. And then the specular map. Um, and there'll be 4 sets of textures for each mech. One for the body, one for the variant body pieces, one for generic pieces, and which is like all the guns that look the same, and then one for the window. Um, so what I did is I took these two, I added this generic one. So the generic is in a specific folder. We go to Depot, MWO, Objects, Mechs, and we have a folder here called generic. And this is just these textures that are only for like lasers and autocannons that always look the same. So anyways, I just took this MWO camo and then made a new one that's actually pointing to those generic folders already. So that whenever I append this, it's already got the generic layer built. And then I include an extra image texture because that's what I'm going to bake to when I do the tabletop simulator step. Okay, so now let me open another thing because I don't actually use this again once I've done this part. I'm not going to save that. I'm going to go into the hex base. This hex base is the hex that I created. And you'll notice it has a hex base layer, which is very straightforward. It's literally just the hex base image, which I would specify from the one that I just saved. The It has 0 roughness because I don't want to, I mean, it has 1 roughness because I don't want it to be shiny at all. And then it just goes to a surface output. Then you'll see the generic one is there and the MWO camo one is there. What this does is it gives me both of the layers that I want to import. This one I just want to straight use, and then this one I want to import. Nothing will start with generic, but everything else will have a texture, and I want to be able to paste this layer, node graph into it. Um, I don't understand the node graph that well. If you expand this, you can see it does a ton of stuff inside that node, but I never do that. So, oh, whoops, undo that. There we go. So that's the hex space. Now I import this hex space in every time by using append, which allows you to add stuff from another Blender file. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'll show you. Um, I'm going to open, don't save this, and you'll see I've got this MWO workspace. This is a workspace that I can have set up already from the default, which is what I use. But all it is the left side, hold middle mouse and you can drag the top bar. Webcam mic. Okay, there we go. We're going to use the webcam mic now. and the sound bars, so I need to switch my sound. Here, sound bar. There we go. Because my headset keeps turning off on me. That's no good. All right, headset can charge. There we go. All right, so should still be able to hear me. Yeah, it looks good. All right, so on the left side, this is a 3D viewport. Up here is my shader editor. Down here is my image editor. Over here is my outliner. Down here is my properties. And then occasionally I will change this to be a UV editor when I want to see UVs. But this covers basically all of the different stuff I need to do whenever I'm working on a mech. So if I check the PowerShell, you'll see that it's done. So if I come over to Blender, the first thing I'm going to do is say import, and I'm going to import a mech. That is from the CryEngine importer. Then I go to the proper one, which I've got a little folder here that goes straight to the mechs folder. Then I'm going to go to the Bane, and I'm going to import this Bane CDF. And now it just thinks for a while. I'm not sure if that actually went. New, general, don't save, file, import mechs, Bane CDF. There it goes. Okay. I don't know what I was doing there. I had something messed up with it. So it spins for a while and then it will appear. And it's going to drop into this collection here. So I don't know if this will be something I'll just fast forward, but it's playing and I don't want to mess with it. I'm going to move some of these here. We're going to move this out of the way. And I don't need those open anymore. Okay. So normally while it's importing, I'll come here and I'll find the Bane. So the one we're going to make is the Bane 1 or the Bane Prime, which I want to know what weapons it has. And then here I will also go to search and say Bane, and there's two of them. That's the Bane 3, which I've already imported. There's the Bane 1. This is the one I want. Now sometimes it won't show the picture here, but I can go here to show the Clan Direct Firestar, and down at the bottom it'll have the Bane. So that's the image I'm going to try and pose it to match. So we'll move this over here. And this sucker's still going. You can just click on the title bar and see if it's not responding, it's still thinking. I may or may not cut this video down. I think most of the reason I'm recording this is so that when I inevitably forget how to do this, I can come watch how I said to do it. Really need this to finish. It's a lot of stuff. So the first part is getting the mech in and then setting all the hard points and posing it and setting your textures up. Once you get that part done, then it's a whole different process getting it into TableTop Simulator, which is the only reason I'm importing these. I guess I did 3D print one, but they don't 3D print super well. You have to fix all the geometry in them because they have lots of holes. Oh my gosh, I remember now, the Bane was one of the longest imports. Normally it takes maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Come on. Import. Holy cow. This might have been a bad one to pick.
It's fine, I only took 4 damage. I'm gonna win. Oh.
My gosh, did I crash it? There, finally. Holy cow, that took forever. Okay,
So here's the whole model, fully imported. And you'll see there's just all kinds of stuff here. So the first thing we do is I hit A to select everything, and I hit S to scale. And I took and checked a bunch of mechs versus the actual minis, and they all work out to around 11.6% to 12%. The mean is 11.9%. So I do 0.119 and enter. So that's the size that I scale it down to. And then I do G to move, Z to restrict it to the vertical axis, and then 0.157. I'm raising it 0.157 inches because that's how tall the hex base is. Now that that's imported, I go to File and Append, and then I go to, and you'll notice I've got a couple different things here, but we want to append the hex base. I want an object, I want this hex base, and it sticks it there on the bottom. So now that I've got the mech in and it's perfectly on top of the base, I switch to this shaded mode or solid mode so that I can just see the mech. Because the next thing I want to do is get the pieces set correctly. So I'm going to hide the widgets, hide the empties, hide the weapons, hide the damaged parts, hide the variants, and then open up the armature, which is going to be all the pieces, and I hide the actual posing elements. So then when I come down here, there's just a whole bunch of pieces I got to sort out and figure out what goes where. So one thing that's weird about the Bane is it has a whole bunch of weapons that are listed in the early armature, which aren't supposed to be there. Actually, I'll probably end up putting them back because a bunch of them I do actually use. But so we're going to go through all these and highlight them all. Just hit Shift, and then I'm going to hit H to hide them all. And then I'm also going to, in this case, I think I am supposed to have that ballistic shroud. So I'll leave it. If I was going to do a missile boat, I would get rid of that ballistic shroud and instead put the missile stuff in. Okay, and we got all of these aren't needed. Hide those. Now, this is abnormal. Normally, the first part of the armature is just body parts. It won't be anything else. But the Bane is just a weird mech, which is why I'm using it as an example. So I'll just show you too. If I get rid of the ballistic shroud, it gets rid of that thing. So, but I know we're going to need it, so I'll leave it. But when I did the missile variant, I had to hide that. Okay, and then we got right torso is actually supposed to have 4 machine guns. So if they're listed, I'm going to leave them. There are the machine guns. So we're going to hide all but these machine guns because I will need them. Boop. Nope, nope, nope. Hide. There we go. So I'm leaving those 4 little goofy machine guns, okay? Or are those heavy machine guns? Wait, what are these? I don't know what I left. We might actually go ahead and hide those. Oh, it's all of those. Okay, hide those. You know, we're just going to hide everything. We'll come back to it. Okay, so we've gotten through all the weird stuff, and then this is the actual pieces. So, according to this, the left arm should have 5 ultra autocannons too. I'm assuming, what are these? Supposed to be 5 of these. So we're going to check what the mount looks like. Mech. So what we do to add stuff is you add it to the variant, and that'll show those. I don't think that did anything though, so I'm going to hide those. Oh, yep, those are going to be necessary, I think. So we want, I think we actually want all 6 of these mounts because I think it's going to do the center one. Variant Bane 1. Yeah, so that fills the center in. And then there's no missiles. There's nothing in the left torso. The right forearm should have these ballistic mounts. I think this actually should be the ballistic. I think that should be the blank for the 6. Right? Yeah, it should be the blank. Okay. So let's back up again. It's kind of a learning curve. All right, so I want for the left arm, I want the 5 mount pieces, and then I want the blank for the 6th middle. And then I'll say mech, assign that to Bane 1. And I just hit Control Z when I wanted to get out of it. So now we want to do it to the right arm. And the right arm is going to be the blank for the 6, and then these 5 mounts. Almost everything will have a mount attached to it. When we get to the weapon stuff, we'll show you how you can tell. All right, so then we're looking for machine guns for the right torso, which has this right torso blank. What's in that? Sometimes you just have to check what a piece is. Those are probably going to be necessary. And when I look at the Mini, I think it has those little bumps on both sides. It does. So we want that blank on the left torso too. Left torso mount. What's this? Bane. Oh, well, that looks cool, but that's not it. Let's check all 4 of these and see which one we need. This is why the Bane's such a good example, because it has so many weird pieces. Oh, left torso blank. That's what we needed. And there. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to have. It's that little nook there. Okay. So now I go back down to the right torso, and I'm looking for machine guns, which are not listed, I don't think. Nope. Okay. Is this actually the mount? Because that might be what I need. Yeah, I need that. So we're going to go back and get rid of that blank. So we can do this by going here and saying move to weapons, and it'll get rid of it. Okay, so that's looking good. Now I need those guns and I need those autocannons, which are all going to be up here in this section, which is abnormal. They're not normally amidst the armature. So the first armature, left arm, we're supposed to have, these are, I think, LB2Xs? No, Ultra AC2s. So let's find the Ultra AC2. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of those. You'll notice they just have this symbol. They don't have this little triangle. The triangle means a mesh. If there was a triangle here, that would mean that there's a sub mesh, and you have to select it too, or it won't be added. A lot of mounts will have that. This one won't because the Bane's weird. So I'm going to say move, variance, Bane 1. And when I look over here, should have added my guns in. Actually, I wonder if those blank mounts covered it up. Let's see. Left torso has nothing. Right forearm should also have file of Ultra Autocannon 2s. We might be learning something new again on this. Move, 2 variants, Bane 1. Oh, I hid them. That's the problem. All right, let's get to right torso. I hid them earlier, so I have to unhide them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move to Bane 1. Now, if I go up, it should be all the pieces. If I go up to the variants, they're all going to be showing, but I hid them all. So if I hit select all and hit H, they should show up. Or no, I have to actually manually click each one. But there's my guns. Okay, finally. That was rough. All right, and then I've got these. I want to unhide all those. And then I want to unhide these machine guns. And there they are. So there's all my pieces for that. Now, just to give an example, let's find a laser or something that does have extra pieces. I'm not using it, but I want to demonstrate it. Okay, so like this missile. You'll notice that it has a missile and then it has a missile infill. If I wanted to add that, I would have to add both of them. Where's a better example than the missiles? There's got to be something with lasers. Left torso. What's what that mount is? It's so weird. Nothing has it. It's just all these missile launchers. This is just the worst example there is. All right, this missile 20. So you can see this missile 20 has a little missile blank that goes with it. And you would have to add both of them. So if I did, it's in there. It's the problem. It's inside this shroud. So you're not going to be able to see it. Well, I'm going to undo it. But anyways, that's what you got to make sure. You always add the sub mesh. Okay. So the mech is built. So now I can go back up to the top. I can hide the variants. I can hide the armature. I want to show this part of it because now it's time to pose the mech. So you select the armature posers and you hit Control Tab to go to pose mode. Then I'm just looking at this model here and I want to try and make it look like that. The first thing I do is click the bottom one and rotate. Oh, I want to use the transform tool. And I want to rotate the hips to face where it is in the thing. It looks like they're facing about there. We also have an issue here where the toe is not attached on this. I'm just seeing that. So we'll have to put the toe back when we're done. We have to manually pose the toe. This is just one problem after another. Okay. So I'm going to go to Control. Let me see if I can link that. It's because this toe doesn't have the right bones. Oh, also hide that layer. We don't need to see that vein because that's just armature. We don't need it. Okay. So yeah, let's do this. Control Tab. Right, transform. Go here. All right, let's point it this way, and then we're going to fix the feet when we're done. It looks like about there is where the hips are pointing. And then we're going to pose this foot and this leg. It looks like it needs to be rotated just a tiny bit. We're doing that joint. And then I also want to do the same here. So I want the joint, which controls like the leg itself, and then that controls the foot, and I'm going to rotate that just a little. Yeah, about like that. All right, now I'm going to go to Z, the overhead, and I want to control just the foot, and this is where I can move the foot around. Looks like the foot should be kind of hanging off right here. And then let's grab that other foot, and it's supposed to be kind of back here, hanging off of this side. Okay, so now we can come back to here. We're looking pretty good so far. I don't know if we even want to pose the arms. Looking straight ahead. Let's see if we can get that to turn a little bit. Yeah, like that. Maybe like, oh, boy, that doesn't. Sometimes you have to figure out what's moving what. It can be a little weird. Let's do pose this first. Pull that in, and then we're gonna do is pull the elbow down to pull the gun up. That's about right. And then I want to, I don't know how feasible this is. I want to try and tilt the body down just a tiny bit. But yeah, sometimes there's no telling what it's going to move. It's moving the arms. Is this going to move him? Nope, that's going to tilt the hips. Okay, I don't know how to turn the actual body. Is it this one? Nope, that's still the guns. All right, we're going to leave it like that. Sometimes they can't be posed real well. Okay, so now we got to go to here and say, I think let's get out of compose mode, hide the armature pieces. I want this one and this one. Both have to be moved, I think. No, just this one. Okay, so I start by going to, can I get underneath it? That'd be great. Yeah, no, that doesn't really help me. Let's switch to see-through mode. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so I want to hold G, and then I want to move this around. I want it about here, and then I'm going to hit R to rotate it like that. And then let's check our work and see how we did. Oh, that's not nearly far enough in. So we're going to go back to this top-down look. We're going to go there. I think it needs to be about that far. Let's check the side view. Turn off that. Oh, it can still go quite a ways. So we're going to go here and just move it straight back. I think to about here. Okay. From the top, that looks pretty good, I think. You don't normally have to do this much adjusting, but Like I said, I can pick a good one. I want to rotate this. I'm trying to match the bottom toe or the back toe, like right here. And then that looks pretty good. And then we're going to do that wireframe so I can see through the mech. And I think it needs to be about there. This doesn't have to be super exact. I mean, ordinarily, everything poses all at once and you don't have to do this. So this is just one more great example of how you got to fix them sometimes. Oh, that's definitely too far. So one thing you can do is set it to orthogonal view so that it doesn't do any perspective. And that'll help make sure that you're moving it on the right plane. So I think about there is where it should have been moved to. We'll do about there. Maybe there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That might be too far on that one. Yeah, let's bring that one out a little bit. Maybe there. Like that. Yeah, those look good. Okay, so mech is now posed. All right, so now that it's posed, we're going to turn I'm going to hold middle click to drag over. I'm going to turn the cycling shader back on. Looks like shit. That's okay. Now it's time to actually adjust the shading and everything. So let's hide the armature. First thing I do now is go to hex base and the materials. You'll see I've got these two different materials. So I'm going to go to hex base and I'm going to, which has already been built, I'm going to select a file. I want to go X. This is the Bane. I saved it in TTS. There's the JPEG for the base. Now you see the base says Bane. That's perfect. That's all I need for that. Now I'm going to go to generic. So the only thing I need in generic's already built. The only thing I need to do is add a file to it. So this one here, we're going to say a new image, and I'm going to call this Bane Bake. And I'm going to make it 4096 pixels. You can leave the alpha. I don't need an alpha, so I'm going to close it. New image, and then select it. This is only used after you are baking your textures to move it to another thing, like in our case, TableTop Simulator. You don't need it for any other reason. So, but there it is. And then I've got the roughness set to 100. Now we're going to delete that one. I'm going to go to MWO Camo. I'm going to say highlight all of it. I'm going to do Control C to copy it. And then I'm going to get rid of that layer. Then I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call it, new material, and I'm going to call it Bane Bake. And then Bane Bake, the surface, I want to set the base color to an image texture, and then I want to open the image texture, and sorry, I don't need to open it. I need to go here and say Bane Bake. That's what I want to be the image texture. That will not get used except for TableTop Simulator. All right, so we're done with those. Now we can start actually putting everything on the mech like we're supposed to. So the other thing I like to do, I've got my hex base, I've got my bake layer. I like to make the 4 layers we will be using and define them here. So the first one, we're going to select them. They're already built. So there's one that's Bane Body. There's one that's Bane Generic, or the generic layer, which we're just going to put here. There is a Bane variant layer. Variant, there it is. And then there's a Bane window layer right there. Okay, so for Bane body, we're going to modify it. I'm going to go up here and highlight the whole thing and delete it. I'm going to paste in the one that I had from the MWO Camo. Now I'm going to define the pieces. First, I need the RGB layer. You can try and get it here by clicking body, and you'll see it's not listed. So for the first one, I almost always do open. You go into body, and I'm looking for Bane body RGB. It's right there, and you'll see, boom, all of a sudden I start getting textures. I turn off the alpha layer. It's not that important for the body, but for the variant, you need to turn it off. So then the rest of them should show up. So I can just hit B to start typing body. Bane body diff. There's the diffuse layer. I want to set that to none. That fills in anywhere the RGB wasn't drawing. And then you've got the Bane body DDN, which is the normal map. I don't quite understand normal maps. And it won't need adjusted. and then I'll hit B for the Bane body specular layer, which is right there. And that's like reflections or something. Okay. The last thing you'll notice here is the colors. I am using all white, light gray, which is CO for hexadecimal, and then the medium gray, which is 808080. I'm doing that because that's the colors. Before we're done, I'll show you, if you set them like red, blue, and green, you would see where it's applying that red, blue, and green and where it's shading it. But I'm doing this because I like to bring them over in a grayscale because I'm going to tint them anyway. Okay, so then the only thing I have left is I want to select this bake layer and select it so that later I can bake it. All right, so the generic layer I already set up. All I need to do is rename it Bane Generic. Um, then I've got a Bane variant layer. So highlight, delete, paste in the new one. And I always open the first one. I'm looking for Bane variant RGB. And you'll notice nothing changed. So I set it to none. And then when you add the diff layer, everything in variant is almost always with a diff. It's very rare that it has an RGB component. So if I do variant V, Bane variant diff right there. You do have to watch out because there will also be a generic variant. And I want nothing, and you'll see that they're starting to show, but there's still more to do here for the Bane because the Bane's a weird one. All right, so we do here, VAR, I'm looking for the Bane variant DDN, and then I'm looking for the Bane variant specular. Got it? And then I will change this to be Bane Bake and select it. Finally, the Bane window. Highlight everything, delete it, paste in the MWO layer, get rid of the RGB. There's never an RGB component. Now I want window. I want the diff layer right here with none. And then here I want window DDN. And here I want window specular. And then again, we'll select this Bane Bake whenever I make a baked layer for Tabletop Simulator. Okay, so that's all the pieces for the hex base. I have them all here because we're only using the top one, but this is just so they're defined. It makes it very easy to select the other layers. Now we get to go through and add all these pieces. So we have this forearm ballistic blank, and for this, you just kind of have to look. Chances are it's going to be variant or body. So it's definitely not variant, so we're going to change it to body, and that looks right. Okay, so we go to the next one. We've got this forearm mount. It's either variant, body, it's probably not body, it's probably generic. And when I set it to generic, it should look better. It does. Oh, that's the mount. The mount is almost always variant. Each of these, the mount's probably variant. It's this part, the actual barrel, which when I go over, doesn't have any extra pieces. This is probably generic. And when I zoom in and look at that, yeah, that looks right. That looks like the right gun. We can try setting it to body. Looks terrible. We can try setting it to variant. It's definitely not variant. It's supposed to be generic. Any type of ballistic weapon or laser is almost always generic. Missiles, because the tubes always look different, is almost always variant. Occasionally you'll have a weird shaped laser or something, and it might be generic. But these guns are all going to be generic. So I'm just going through these and setting each one to the appropriate texture. The importer just kind of tries to assign some textures, but it's hit and miss. So we can see here, that didn't have anything under it. We have the Bane left torso blank, which is right here. Well, whatever texture it's using is definitely wrong, and that's variant. So typically when it's not a weapon, it's usually body is what it's supposed to be. And yes, that's definitely supposed to be body. Okay, we got the right forearm ballistic blank. Oh, we had a left forearm ballistic blank, yeah. Okay, right forearm ballistic blank. Where'd it go? Here it is. Okay, that was for the BH6 means ballistic hardpoint 6. So this should be body. Yeah, we knew that. Okay, the mounts are all variant. We know that. So then we just need to change these to generic. Generic and generic. If there's a quicker way to change them, I don't know it. I've always had to do each one individually. Generic. Okay, that's good. So the guns all look great. Next, it's going to give us these right torso machine guns, which should also be generic. They're a ballistic weapon, and that is definitely the right texture. So we'll assign all of these generic. Ordinarily, I would say this is the hard part, and then it gets easier. But we actually have extra stuff to do. So this is a perfect example. First off, I don't think it's variant, so we're going to change that to body. That looks better for part of it. Unless it's supposed to be generic. Nope. So this is just changing a few pieces here. So let's change that to variant. It could be variant. So anytime you see this, it means it has two textures, and you have to figure out what the second one is. So let's try body. It's usually going to be a combo of body and variant. So body, there. Okay, that's definitely the right texture for that. So then that bar is the other part, and it's either generic, which it's not generic. You can see it's got multiple things across it. I doubt it's body. It's not body either. You can see it's overlapping different stuff. So it's variant. Now, one thing you could do, if you're really not sure, you could go to, I'm going to show how to do this because this is a prime example. In this case, I want to see the body texture. Body. Whoop. I want to see the Bane body diff. It's a good spot to look. Okay. There's my texture, but then if I changed it to a UV editor and I said tab to go to edit mode and that, it will show me where the actual UV maps are, and then you can pick your image that you're wanting to look at. So let's say Vein Body RBG, and you can see it meshes up with those. So that's how I know that's where it's supposed to go. Okay, anyways, it's one reason that you would switch to it. Let's go back to image editor. But usually you can just alter texture so you figure out which one it is. So that's all of the variant textures, which is almost always the guns. Okay, then we go to the armature, and now we got to figure out what goes in each one of these. And the reason I picked the Bane is because it has a whole bunch of two things. So Bane body looks correct. This is probably Bane variant. Okay. Is this supposed to be Bane variant also? No. See how that got screwed up? Okay, so that's supposed to be Bane body. The other part was supposed to be Bane variant because you can see what changed. I'll set this back to Bane body. This area is all messed up, and when I set it to variant, it looks much better. Now it's got a vent there. Okay, so the next piece, center torso pelvis, and you just got to kind of find what we're looking at and try adjusting it. Let's see. The body's probably right. Let's add variant and see what changes. Oh, that's definitely wrong. So let's change that to body, which means the other part is probably supposed to be variant. Variant. Yep, there's those little gears. That looks a lot better. Okay, so we got that one done. Next piece. This is currently set to body, and I think that does look like a body texture, so let's try setting this to variant. Variant. Yep, change those little pods there. Okay, center torso rear. Whatever it is, it looks wrong, so let's just change that to variant. I'm not so sure about that. Let's change this one to body. Okay, that's right, and that does look like the right bar. It's got a little crease in it. Okay. Center torso is actually body, and it's hard to tell. I think it is actually supposed to be body. It's all covered up anyway. Okay, the cockpit definitely has two of them. So it says Bane window. There's no way that's right. I think that, oh, this has three textures. So we're going to try body first. I don't think it's body. I think it's variant. Variant? Oh, nope, wasn't variant. Was it window? Oh, that is window. Okay, so that's the glass that it's coloring. So then the next one, let's try body. Body. Maybe? I don't know. Let's try setting the next one to body. One of them is body and one of them is variant. That's definitely body, which means this one should be variant. Okay, gives you kind of a little dark thing under it. Okay, that's not bad. Left arm clavicle. That's here, and it's looks like it's body. Left arm forearm. This one's going to definitely be 2 of them. So it's got Bane body set. I don't know. Let's try setting this one to variant. Nope. That's supposed to be body. Yeah, and then this one's supposed to be variant. Yeah, that looks better. It's got that little bar on the bottom. Okay. Left arm ballistic shroud. I thought it looked fine. That's ballistic body, so this must be what has to be changed to variant. Variant? I think it changed a bar or something. It looks fine. It looks right, so we're not going to mess with it anymore. Now we go all the way down to our next piece, which is the left arm, upper arm. Its body. All I'm really checking is it only has one material, and it's probably good. Okay, now we're at the left leg calf. Well, I do think that it's definitely that, so we probably just need to change this to variant. Boop. And that probably changed a bar or a joint or something. It looks right, so we're not going to mess with it. Left leg foot. Well, I think that part looks right, so let's set this to variant. Oh, it changed a little something down there. Okay, the foot. Well, that part looks right, so I imagine this is going to change. Variant. I didn't see anything change. Okay. The pinky toe. Still think that looks fine, so we'll make this the variant. Basically, figure out which one's body, the other one's going to be variant. That's definitely body, so this will be variant. Okay, the thigh. That's body, that little bar is probably variant. Now, normally when you do a mech, you'll have maybe 2 things that have 2 textures. Usually nothing has 2 textures. Sometimes the head will have a texture for body and a texture for window. But normally window is a separate piece. All right, the toe, change that to variant. We have a whole other thing of these to do. Okay, so this one is clearly not body. This one is probably body. Oop, that's a V. B. Bane body. Yeah, there's our body texture. And then that means this inner texture is probably this, and I bet it's a vent. So we do variant, doink. Oh, and it did that colored thing on the side. Oh, and it did add a vent in there. Okay, it looks great. Now we're in left torso rear. Well, that looks like body. Oh, there's only one texture. Only one texture. This is the forearm, which I think that part is supposed to be variant, and this part is supposed to be body. Yeah, that's looking great. Forearm ballistic shroud. Well, that's definitely body. So this is the variant. Okay, all the way down through those. Right arm, upper arm. That looks like body. Can barely see it. Okay, left leg calf. It's definitely body, so this can be variant. Left leg foot. Variant. Variant. So, yeah, this is the worst example of how to import a mech. Ordinarily, for this, all I do is click the top and just down arrow and make sure everything has one texture. But this one is definitely breaking the mold, which is why I chose to do the Bane. Okay, right torso. This is clearly supposed to be the variant, and this is supposed to be the body. Yeah, that looks beautiful. And are we done? Oh, no, we got the right torso rear hiding here. Oh, it only has one texture, or material, sorry. And I think we're done. Yes, that's it. So everything is textured now. So, I come out here, then I would do File, Save, and there is my fully imported Bane 1. He's on his thing, he's posed, he's fully textured, he's looking great. I don't know how to animate and stuff like that, but that's how you get it imported. Now, that the mech's ready, I want to import it into TTS. To do that, I need to do a few things. One, I can't have this many materials. It's not going to fly. Let's see, image editor here. Make bake. So that domain bake. Okay. So I can only import one into the asset bundle. I can import as many models as I want. The first model in the group will be the one that color tints in TableTop Simulator. But the fewer models I import, if I imported right now, I could set the base as the first model by naming it hex base like this, and that means the base would tint whenever it's imported. I also need a bunch of textures though, because the texture files it's using don't work. I need to bake them into files. I would have to bake 4 different materials and then provide all 4 materials, which I'll show you how I used to do it. I would do this right here. So I would import my Bane 3 FBX model, and then I have 4 different materials in this case. This was the missile one, it didn't have any generic. I would have all of these materials imported in, then import the whole thing as an asset bundle. I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to turn everything into a single texture so that the only textures I'll have is the Bane base and the texture to cover all of these. We'll lose a slight bit of fidelity, but it means that when I can make this the first model and it'll tint everything. Because otherwise I could make it tint the chest or a gun, but I can't make it tint everything. So I need to join these together. But to do that, I need a new UV map. Because here's a perfect example. I'm going to just select anything here and say select all. Let's unselect the base. I'm going to say tab and go to edit mode, and let's look at the UV map. This is the UV map, and you can see they overlap horribly. So I need them to not overlap in order to do this. So what I'm going to do, we're going to tab out of that. I'm going to say here, and I want to go to the data nodes. I don't need these showing. I need the UV maps. I've got one UV map here. So I'm going to add a UV map. Now I'm going to do select all visible, and I'm going to control to get rid of the base because I don't want it included in this UV map. Now everything is selected, and I have this is the actual selected one, which has UV map. This batch UV tools is what my add-on does. All I do is hit set or create, and now every model has that UV map, and it's now the selected UV. And it does it for everything that was visible, which is what I needed to do. That's perfect. So I can go back to here, it's fine. That's the only reason I use this, is just to do that. So what this did is it created that many. You would have to click on each one without that add-on. So now that I have all of my add-on, all of my UVs, I do that. We're going to get rid of that again. Now I want to hit tab to go to edit mode. I have everything selected except for the base. I'm going to go to UV. I want a smart UV project. I want it to be add so that it doesn't try and scale anything. I want it to be regular axis aligned. I want the island margin to be 0.02, seems to be enough. And I don't need to change anything else. I hit unwrap. There's my new texture. You'll notice nothing overlaps and there's a tiny gap between everything. Now, it's going to try and map everything into one image. The textures it comes with are 2048 square. This is 4096 square. So you shouldn't lose much fidelity. Now, we're going to tab out of that. I need to bake all these textures. So what I'm going to do is go to my hex base and materials. And the reason I do that is so I can go to window, that is selected. I can go to variant, that is selected. Generic, you notice each one is pointing to the same texture. Body, that is selected. And then the Bane Bake is my actual thing. So I want it on body. There's the Bane Bake. I'm going to switch out of UV editor. I just want the image mode. So I now know every layer of this material, body, generic, variant, window, that's all 4 pieces making this up, are all pointed to the Bane Bake image. Now I'll go to the render model. I make sure I'm in cycles, GPU. I'm going to go to the sampling and turn off the noise threshold because there's no light here. And I'm going to set it to one pass. Since I'm just getting color, every pass basically fires a ray of light at an object, and then it'll bounce off in a random direction depending on the light settings. Since there are no light settings for this, one pass is all I need. If there was light, you might do 100, 200, whatever. I'm going to set it to one. That'll make it go faster. Then I'm going to minimize the sampling and go down to bake. I want to be on a diffuse bake, which I am, and I want to turn off direct and indirect lighting. I just want colors. So it's going to take these colors and paste them into this based on wherever their UV map says. So this facing will get pasted here. So then we hit bake. And now we just have to wait as it starts baking. And you'll see it go boink, and stuff will start appearing. There's a little dot right there. Something just appeared. Oh, I screwed up. Okay. So while I was talking, I accidentally unselected everything. Select everything except the base. Now we hit bake. There we go. Now it'll start baking. My bad. Okay, and this bake will probably take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Because we're baking so much stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if this takes a full 5. There's a little bit of stuff it started drawing. Oh, drew a little more. This is going to take a very long time because there's so many pieces. Did I change the sampling? I did. Okay. Oh, there we go. So it started getting through the weapons, and now so it does them basically in the order of the layers. So it did all these first, and a bunch of them are black. That's why it was really hard to see them. Um, and then once it gets through those, then it'll start going through all the armature and doing all them. And then it has to go. It has to basically bake every single one of these objects into this new UV map. And we're doing that so that we can have everything use the new UV map that we've generated. And the other thing I do is after I've generated all this new bake for TTS, I save the model again, the actual Blender file, so that if I screw up, um, I don't have to disassemble the model because it's got the UV map. All that's great. Oh my gosh, this is such a long bake. Ordinarily, a bake doesn't take this long either. But like most of these objects, it has to bake twice for each object because it has to bake the body layer and I mean the body material, and then it bakes in the variant material, and it does it over and over and over. When we're done, every piece is going to have a single material, and that's what it's baked to. And then I'll just have two objects. Um, the body of the mech itself, which will use the bake texture, and then the base, which will still use the base texture we built. And then we'll join those together, and that'll be our final model. So we'll have a single model, a single mesh that's our entire model, and that's what we're going to import into Unity Engine. But it's only so we can. The only reason we do it in Unity Engine is so we can bundle it as an asset bundle. because Tabletop Simulator is limited in how many faces and triangles you can import. But if you use an asset bundle, you can import really big complex models. I've got an elementals base that has 5 elementals on it. That's the whole file is like 21 megabytes, and that's just crazy. The largest texture you can use in Tabletop Simulator is 4096 pixels, I think. An asset bundle might be able to get away with more. I haven't tried. Otherwise, maybe I could do one at 8096 to keep it from losing fidelity. But considering this is twice the size, we're packing everything into basically half size to make it all fit. So it should, at 4096, it should be basically the same amount of pixel space that it had. You can see it's getting closer as that bake just keeps filling out. This is riveting stuff. Wonder if I'm losing. I lost a little bit of frames just from watching it bake this. I wonder if I'll fast forward through this. Nah, screw it. Anybody wants to watch this, you got a fast forward button. Basically, we're just watching until it stops showing texture bake on here. And once it stops, then that means it's baked everything into the new map. And that's what everything uses for its texture. We got to be getting close. I should do another mech to show how much quicker it goes when it's not a nightmare like the Bane. Like the Adder is super fast. That's the first mech you do since it's the first one in the list. I guess I could talk about that. To get all this set up, which Hefe's tutorial shows you how, basically you go to Depot MWO and you just copy all the pack files from your MechWarrior Online install to here, except for mechs, and you unpack the mechs here. And then you just, I just do 7-zip extract here for every single model. And that gets everything extracted to here. And then objects mechs is where the mechs are stored. That's the file structure that the converter is expecting. Okay, so we're into Bane and TTS. All we got is the base. We're just waiting on this. Oh, it finished. Okay, so now I go here and I hit Alt-Shift-S, which is save as. You can also just click the menu thing. So I am on the Bane. I'm going to go into TTS, and then I save it as a JPEG because I don't need any transparency, and that'll make it smaller. So Bane Bake JPG, save as image. There we go, it's saved. Okay, so now the next step is I've still got everything highlighted. So I like to just click the head or chest or whatever, highlight it. Really, it's easiest to click the top model in your armature and then hit A to select everything, get rid of the base because I don't want to include it yet, and hit Control J, which will join the model. Now it's going to look terrible, that's normal. So now you'll notice all those things are one model now. I'm going to move it up to the collection and I'm going to call it Bane Bake. And then I'll name the hex base Bane Base. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I lied. I said I was going to do this and I didn't. I'm hitting Control Z a bunch. There we go. I want it back to this. After the bake is done, I do File, Save As, oops, not TTS, here, and I say Bane Bake. There. I will not save the model again. That way I can undo stuff, make changes, whatever. Now, we do select all, hide that, Control J. Then we're going to move this up to collections. We're going to call this Bane Base because that's the hex base. We're going to call this Bane Bake because that's the body. We can hide this. We're actually done with these. We're going to go to materials. I'm going to go to the base first and I'm going to remove. We're going to call this Bane Base. I'm going to see that texture set. I'm going to remove all of these materials from the base. They were only there so it was easy to select them without having to click on a specific piece. Then I'll go to the bake and I'm going to remove every texture except body. So each one of these materials is being used somewhere on the mech. But I'm going to undo each one of these. In each, if you get rid of a texture material it was using, it defaults to another one. Since there's only one texture material now, every piece here is using the same material. Still looks wrong though, but that's because of the UV map is wrong. So I'm going to change this to use the bake material, which looks awful. But then the most important part, I'm going to go to here, and here's my UV map. And when I set that as the active layer, it looks right. We're going to turn the roughness down so it looks like that. But now I need to get rid of all these other UV maps because this is what came from each one. Now the reason I have to get rid of them is TableTop Simulator and Unity want one UV map. It may be there may be a way to have all the UV maps, but I don't know what it is, and there's no need for them anyway. You just want this one map left. Okay, so there's my model. It's looking great. As you can see, it's maybe slightly blurrier. By the time you get it into Tabletop Simulator, you really can't tell. It looks great. So we got this. Let's turn off that so we have perspective mode. There we go. Yeah, that's my big old Bane. Okay, so now that I've got this, I need to join these last two layers up. To make sure this is the one that tints, you have to select it first, then highlight everything by hitting A. And you'll notice they're both selected, but Bane is the main one. Then hit Control J to join them. They are now one model. The last thing I do is this is the origin point, which it considers the center, the exact center of the model. That might be slightly off center with the pose, so I like to do set origin to 3D cursor. The 3D cursor is currently at the world origin, 000, which means the exact bottom middle of the base is the center of the model. So that's done. So now I'm going to go to File, Export, and FBX file. I want to save it to the TTS folder, and I want to show visible objects only. Otherwise, it will export every gun and thing, every item that we've hidden will also be exported, which we don't want. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to call this Bane Bake is fine. That's what I've been calling them. That's just internal. All right, so I'm done on this end. Now we're going to go to Unity. So this is the Unity engine when I pull up the Tabletop Simulator mod. These are the ones I've baked already. I've been making a separate folder just for the TTS files. So I'm going to say create. I want to say import new asset. I want the Bane. And then I want the TTS folder. And this is what I'm importing. The FBX, the bake texture, and the base texture. Import. They will all import in. And because everything's assigned, it will automatically be assigned to the mech. Now, it will be laying really weird for some reason. I don't know the reason. You can put it up here and get a preview of what it's going to look like, but I don't bother with that part. All I need is to select the model. I need to name it for the asset bundle. So we're going to call it Bane Bake, or no, we're going to call this Bane 1 because that's the name of the model. In fact, let's call it, yeah, that's fine. So we've got that selected. We're going to right click and say build asset bundles. So it will now build this asset bundle and export it to this directory here. Before I leave, I go back here and I unassign the bundle name. That's because when you do 100 of these, each time you do it, it builds everything that has a bundle. And so I only want to build it once. So now I can go to Tabletop Simulator and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to copy this model and paste it here. This is just an asset bundle. Now I'm going to go to custom to change the asset bundle. Also, you'll notice the reason I'm copying it is because I set a few toggles. I have them set to use snaps. I have them to be sticky, and I have them to measure movement. That was a big one. I want them to measure movement automatically when you pick them up. So when I drag them, they measure. Or if I hold tab, they'll measure from the edge of the model to the next model and tell you how far it is. Okay, so we're going to right click. We're going to custom. I'm now going to browse my local files. It started with a B. I want the Bane 1. That's the model I just made. So I'm going to import it. Now, if you're not sure if the model's going to work, try local first so you don't have to keep cleaning it up. But I know this is going to work, so I'll upload it to the cloud. I'm uploading to this folder here, Miniatures Baked, and I'll hit upload. And then it's going to upload the model. And when it finishes uploading, it's going to paste the link in there. Now, when you first do that, it'll try and save to the root folder. But if you go into Cloud Manager and go to the folder you want, Alpha Strike Miniatures Baked, then it will, and then close it, that's where it will default to now. I set it as a figurine, so when I pick it up, it stands upright, and I want it made of plastic. I hit import, and I say, no, I don't want to update them to match, because the previous model click it. And there's my Bane. And it looks incredible. And then, as you can see, the center of it snaps right to the hex. It looks amazing. So happy with that. And then I'm just going to right click here and rename it. This is the Bane 1. So mouse over, it says Bane. If you keep holding, it'll just show you it's variant 1. So the last thing, this is the reason I did this, is if I go to color tint and I say I want this sucker to be, let's say, light blue, like that, and hit apply, it tints the mech to be that color, which is awesome. If I have several of them, or a whole force, I can change the color of everything. So anyways, we'll set the color tint back to white. That's what it looks like by default, and then you can color tint it. That is a fully imported mech for TableTop Simulator. God damn, he turned out good. I'm very happy. And you can see here was the, here. Oh, my bad. Turn around here. So when they've got snaps on, they don't stand close to each other too well. This was the missile one, which is a little nuts. But anyways, there's my second Bane. There and there. Yeah. God, those look good. They look so good. Okay. Anyways, that's the end of my tutorial. So enjoy.